The great silver vessel drifted above the blue planet like a silent moon. From its windows shone a soft violet light that touched the clouds. Inside, Princess Lenari of the Selentari Empire stood near the wide glass wall and watched Earth spin below. She had seen many worlds in her short life, but none filled her with such curiosity as this one. The humans looked small and fragile, yet reports said they had survived countless wars, harsh climates, and even space travel with very limited technology. Lenari's instructors often called humans primitive, but she did not believe that. She had studied their languages, their music, their way of showing feelings. There was something warm and powerful about them. When she first heard a human song called Stand By Me, she listened again and again, wondering why her chest felt heavy afterward. Her father, Emperor Soltharian, had sent her as an observer, not a friend. The Selentari wished to test if humans were ready to join the Galactic Council, but Lenari's purpose was simpler. She wanted to understand them, truly. When the ship entered low orbit, her translator companion, a calm human named Dr. Ethan Ward, arrived at her chamber. He wore the standard blue uniform of Earth's Space Coalition, and though his steps were quiet, Lenari could sense the steady rhythm of his heart. The Selentari could hear such things. They considered heartbeats to be the true sound of life. "You seem thoughtful again, Princess," Ethan said with a kind smile. "Is something on your mind?" She turned, her long silver hair catching the ship's soft light. "I am thinking of your species," she said slowly, choosing her words with care. "You live such short lives, yet you build so much and you feel so deeply. I cannot understand how you continue with such limited time." Ethan chuckled. "That's what makes us try harder, I think. Every day matters." Lenari studied his face. Human expressions change so quickly. One moment they smiled, the next they frowned, yet both could mean affection. "Your people also speak of something called love," she said. "You say it is the bond that keeps families and partners together. But my records show you face conflict, jealousy, heartbreak. Still, you try again. Why?" He hesitated, not expecting such direct curiosity. "Because love makes life worth it," he said simply. "It's hard to explain, but it's real." The princess nodded slowly, her glowing eyes narrowing in thought. "Interesting," she whispered. Then, after a pause, she asked the question that had puzzled her since her first anthropology file. "Tell me, how often do humans join to create life?" Ethan almost dropped the tablet he was holding. He coughed lightly, trying to hide his surprise. That depends," he said, his voice careful. "Some people do it often, some rarely. It's not only for creating life, it's also for closeness and emotion." Lenari tilted her head, puzzled. "So it is not only a duty of reproduction?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "It's complicated. It's part of how we connect." She blinked slowly. "How strange. In the Selentari culture, reproduction is planned and limited by the council. Emotional connection is shared through mind links, not physical action." "That explains your calmness," Ethan said with a faint smile. "Humans are the opposite. We live messy lives full of feeling." Lenari moved closer, her curiosity glowing brighter than the room's light. "And yet you survive every chaos you make." "Fascinating." A quiet tension filled the air, not uncomfortable but heavy with questions unspoken. For the first time in her royal life, Lenari realized she might actually envy another species. They were imperfect but alive in ways her people had forgotten. The next day, she joined a small group to visit the Earth Research Station on the Pacific coast. The air was warm and salty. The sound of waves amazed her. She removed her helmet just to feel the wind. No simulation aboard her starship could mimic this freshness. Humans came to greet her, some nervous, some excited. Cameras recorded every move. A small child waved a flag and Lenari felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. She bent slightly and greeted the child with her melodic voice. The crowd cheered softly. Ethan walked beside her, explaining small things, the reason people smiled, why they brought flowers, what a handshake meant. Each simple act seemed to carry deep meaning. Later, when the sun began to fall, she stood by the water and watched its reflection spread like melted gold. Ethan joined her quietly. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said. "It is," she replied. "Your world has such warmth. My people measure beauty in symmetry and crystal clarity. Yet this," she pointed at the uneven waves, "is beautiful because it moves." He looked at her with gentle pride. "That's what being human feels like. For a long time neither spoke. The wind brushed her hair. The sea roared softly. In that silence, Linari understood that humans did not only live, they experienced. Every heartbeat, every tear, every laugh was part of something greater. The next morning began with the soft hum of the ship as it floated above the Pacific. Princess Linari sat by her observation window, her gaze distant. She could not stop thinking about the previous day, about the human child, the crowd, and Ethan's calm smile as he explained every little thing. Something inside her had changed, though she could not name it. Her assistant, a tall Selentari guard named Thalen, entered the room. His metallic armor glowed faintly as he bowed. "Your Highness, the Emperor requests a report," he said. "He wishes to know if humans can be considered for limited contact with the Selentari Council." Linari nodded, but her voice was soft. "Tell him I will send my report after the next cycle. I need to understand them further before I decide." Thalen's eyes flickered in surprise. "Understand them? They are primitive, full of contradictions. Their planet is polluted, their emotions uncontrolled. Why delay?" She turned toward him, her tone calm but firm. "Because understanding is not the same as judging. They are not like us, and that makes them valuable to study. They have something we lost long ago." Thalen bowed again, though confusion clouded his face. When he left, Linari sighed and touched the small pendant around her neck, a crystal that glowed faintly when she felt strong emotion. Today it pulsed brighter than usual. Later she joined Ethan in the ship's research chotic. "It is," Ethan said with a chuckle, "but it's also beautiful. It's how we grow." She studied the glowing map again. "So even when you are apart, you find ways to stay connected. That is rare among species." He looked at her, noticing the wonder in her voice. "Connection is what keeps us alive. Even when we fight, even when things are hard, we still reach out." She thought about her own people, the Selentari. They communicated through mind links, yes, but it was cold, emotionless, precise. There was no laughter, no warmth, only perfect understanding. And now, standing beside a human, she realized perfect understanding was not always what a heart needed. "Ethan," she said softly, "may I ask another question about your kind?" He smiled. "Of course, Princess. You can ask anything." She hesitated a moment. "If your world is full of pain and short lives, why do you not give up? Why do you continue to love, to build, to dream?" Ethan looked thoughtful. "Because we have hope," he said. "Every generation believes it can make life better for the next. Even if we fall, someone stands up again. It's what being human means." Her eyes softened. "Hope," she whispered. "We have not used that word in centuries." Later that evening, the princess and her small crew traveled to an Earth city to experience human life more closely. They landed quietly near a coastal town, dressed in disguises that made them look almost human. For safety, only Ethan and one Selentari guard joined her. The town was alive with sound. Music from the streets, people laughing, cars rushing by, lights flickering from buildings. Linari felt her senses overwhelmed. The air was heavy with scents, food, sea breeze, oil, rain. She could not stop turning her head, trying to take it all in. Ethan guided her through a crowded marketplace. "Humans gather like this to trade goods, share stories, and enjoy time together," he explained. She watched a group of teenagers taking pictures, their faces bright with joy. "They seem happy," she said softly. "Most of them are," Ethan replied. "Even when things aren't perfect, we find small reasons to smile." They stopped near a small food stall where an old man sold roasted corn. The smell caught her attention. Ethan bought one and handed it to her carefully. "Try it," he said. Linari studied the warm golden food. "It looks strange. Just taste," he said with a grin. She took a small bite and her eyes widened in surprise. "It's sweet and smoky at the same time." How unusual, Ethan laughed. "That's street food. Every region has something different. It's part of our culture." As they walked, Linari felt something she had never known before. Freedom. For once, she wasn't a royal observer or a symbol of a perfect race. She was just another traveler, walking among living beings who didn't even know she was from another world. Later that night, they reached a hill overlooking the glowing city. The view stretched endlessly, millions of lights twinkling below. Linari stood in silence, her silver eyes reflecting the city's brightness. "So many lights," she murmured. "Each one a person, a home, a story. Your world is imperfect yet full of life." Ethan looked at her, his voice quiet. That's what makes it beautiful. We don't live forever, but we live fully. She turned toward him, her heart beating faster than usual. I think I begin to understand your people, she said. You live because you feel. You create meaning where none exists. He smiled softly. That's exactly it. When they returned to the ship, Linari recorded her second note for the Selentari archives. Humans possess something extraordinary. Though fragile, they burn brighter than any race I've known. Their strength lies not in control but in acceptance of chaos. I must learn more of this emotion they call hope. She paused again, staring at her reflection in the glass. The faintest smile touched her lips as she whispered to herself, perhaps we Kelantari have much to learn. The following day, the Selentari ship orbited quietly above Earth, but inside the command hall a storm was growing. A distress signal came from the Pacific region. An earthquake had struck the same coastal town that Linari visited the night before. Human cities were collapsing. People were trapped and communication systems were breaking down. When the message reached the princess, she stood frozen for a moment. She could still remember the smell of roasted corn, the laughter of children, the music in the streets. Now those sounds were gone, replaced by cries for help and static noise. Prepare the landing craft, she ordered quickly. Her advisor, Thalen, stepped forward, clearly shocked. Your Highness, that area is unstable. You cannot go down there. Let the humans handle it. She turned sharply toward him. They are not soldiers, Thalen. They are families, children. If we can help, we must. He hesitated but finally bowed. As you command, Princess. Moments later, the ship's engines roared to life. A small silver shuttle detached and began descending through the atmosphere. Ethan sat beside her, checking emergency supplies. I never thought I'd see an alien princess volunteering for a rescue, he said with a hint of a smile. She gave a faint nod. You humans taught me that caring is strength, not weakness. The shuttle broke through the clouds and entered a world of chaos. The once bright city was now covered in dust and smoke. Buildings leaned dangerously. Streets were cracked and frightened people ran in every direction. Linari and Ethan stepped out wearing protective suits, though the princess soon removed her helmet. She wanted to feel the air, even if it smelled of smoke and fear. Her glowing eyes scanned the scene. So much loss, she whispered. Ethan pointed toward a collapsed school. There are people trapped in there, he said. We have to move fast. Without hesitation, Linari lifted a fallen beam using her suit's energy field. Her species were physically stronger than humans, and the glowing force from her hands made the metal rise slowly. Several humans gasped in disbelief as they saw her power. Go! Help the children! She called out. Rescuers rushed forward, pulling out survivors. Dust covered her face, but she kept working. Time passed, though she didn't notice. Every scream, every tear made her move faster. She was no longer a royal observer. She was part of their struggle. At one point, she heard a faint cry under the rubble. A small boy was trapped beneath the concrete. Ethan tried to reach in, but the gap was too narrow. Linari knelt and pressed her palm on the stone. A soft blue light spread from her hand, and the heavy slab began to dissolve into fine dust. The boy looked up, eyes wide with wonder. Do not be afraid, she said softly. You are safe now. When she carried him out, the crowd began to cheer. For the first time, humans saw an alien not as a visitor but as a savior. Hours later, when the worst had passed, the princess stood at the edge of the ruined town. The setting sun turned the sky red. Her armor was cracked and her hair was filled with dust, but her heart felt strangely alive. Ethan came to her side, wiping his forehead. You did more than any of us expected, he said. You didn't have to risk yourself. She looked at him with quiet eyes. Maybe I did. My people always believed emotions made us weak, but today I felt something powerful. Your people call it compassion. Ethan nodded slowly. That's what makes us human. She smiled faintly. Then perhaps today I was a little human too. They stood in silence for a long time, watching the rescue teams still working. The humans had lost much, yet they didn't stop helping each other. A man gave his coat to a stranger. A young woman carried water for others, though her own hands shook. They cried, but they didn't give up. That night, as they returned to the ship, Linari recorded her next report. Today I witnessed the human heart under pressure. Pain and chaos could not destroy their will to help. Even when broken, they rise again. Their kindness has no logic, yet it gives them strength beyond reason. She stopped the recording and stared at her reflection. The light in her eyes was different, softer, warmer. She touched her pendant again. It glowed brighter than ever. Later she walked into the quiet viewing deck where Earth floated below like a wounded jewel. Ethan joined her, his voice calm but heavy with thought. "I never believed aliens would save our children," he said. "You've changed how people will see your kind forever." Lenari looked at him gently. "Maybe it is I who has changed the most. Your world showed me what life truly means. It's not perfection or control, it's courage even in pain." He smiled. "That's a very human way to think." The princess turned her gaze back to the planet. "Then perhaps," she said softly, "humans are not as small as we thought. Maybe they are the giants of spirit we have been searching for." The silence between them was peaceful. Outside, Earth rotated slowly, glowing with both light and shadow. In that moment, Princess Lenari understood that her mission was no longer about observation. It was about learning what it meant to truly live. The Selentari ship shimmered in orbit, its smooth metal reflecting Earth's blue glow. Inside, silence filled the council chamber. The air felt heavy as holographic faces of the Selentari High Council appeared before Princess Lenari. Their eyes were cold and bright, like glass that never knew warmth. The Emperor, her father, sat in the center. His expression was calm but distant. "Princess Lenari," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We received your field reports and the recent transmission about your direct involvement in the human crisis. Explain your actions." Lenari stood tall, though her heart beat fast. "Father, I could not stand by while lives were in danger. We had the power to help them. It would have been wrong to ignore their suffering." A counselor interrupted, her voice sharp and metallic. "You disobeyed the prime observation rule. No interference with developing species. You revealed Kelantari technology to primitives." "They are not primitives," Lenari said firmly. "They are a strong, emotional species with potential beyond our understanding. I have seen their courage and kindness." Another counselor frowned. "You speak as if they are equal to us." She met his gaze without fear. "In some ways they are greater than us." The words hung in the air like a shockwave. Even the Emperor's eyes widened slightly. "Greater?" he repeated quietly. Lenari took a deep breath. "Yes, humans are fragile, yet they keep fighting. They feel pain but still choose to care for others. They live short lives yet fill them with love and dreams. They remind me of what our people have forgotten." The chamber fell silent. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Emperor Soltharian leaned forward slowly. "You speak with emotion, my daughter. That is dangerous. Emotion leads to conflict, to mistakes. We evolved beyond such chaos for peace." "Peace without feeling is only emptiness," she said softly. The Emperor's eyes darkened. "You have been among them too long. Their ways are clouding your judgment." Ethan, who stood quietly beside her as a human representative, looked at the ground, unsure if he should speak. But Lenari gave him a small nod, signaling him to stay calm. "Father," she said carefully, "the Selentari once valued discovery and empathy. We were not always cold. If we cut ourselves from feeling, we lose what makes us alive." Her words were bold, almost dangerous. The counselor on the left hissed softly. "You are speaking treason, Princess." "No," she replied, her voice steady. "I am speaking truth. The humans have shown me that life's meaning is not found in control but in connection." The Emperor stood slowly. "Enough. You are recalled to the capital for evaluation. Your human contact will be terminated. Your ship will withdraw from Earth at once." Lenari felt her heart sink, but she didn't move. "With respect, Father, I will not leave until I complete my mission. I swore to learn the truth about humanity, and I will." "Defiance," he said coldly. "You disappoint me." The holograms faded, leaving the chamber dim and quiet. Lenari stood in the silence, her breath trembling slightly. Ethan stepped closer. "That didn't sound good," he said softly. She gave a faint smile. "No, it didn't, but truth is never easy." He looked at her with admiration. "You stood up to your entire empire for us." "I did not do it for you alone," she replied. "I did it because you reminded me that empathy is power." Later that night, the ship's atmosphere grew tense. The Selentari officers whispered among themselves. Some respected her bravery. Others feared punishment from the Emperor. Thalen approached her quietly. "Your Highness," he said, "the crew is uncertain. The Emperor's order is absolute." Lenari turned toward the window, watching the soft glow of Earth below. "Tell the crew they are free to choose." "I will not force anyone to stay. But I will not abandon this planet." Thalen bowed deeply. For a moment his voice softened. When I first joined your service, I believed humans were beneath us. But after what I saw during the quake, I think you may be right. She looked at him gratefully. Then we stay together. Meanwhile, Earth's governments began sending messages of thanks. News networks showed the alien princess saving children and rebuilding homes. For the first time, humans and Selentari were spoken of in the same sentence, not as rivals, but as allies. Ethan watched one of the broadcasts and smiled. They're calling you the Silver Angel, he said. Linari looked embarrassed. I am not an angel. I am only learning. Well, he said with a grin, you're learning fast. That night she went to the observation deck again. The stars shimmered in endless silence, but the blue planet below shone brighter than all of them. She closed her eyes and whispered softly, if understanding them means disobeying, then I will accept it. For the first time, I see what it means to be alive. She sent one final private message to her father before resting. I will not fight you, Father, but I cannot unsee what I have witnessed. The humans may be imperfect, but in their imperfection lies their greatness. They feel pain but still love, they fall but rise again. They are the mirror of what we once were. I hope one day you will see it too. When she finished, she stood by the glass, her reflection merging with the image of Earth. She was both Kelantari and something new. Something changed. As she drifted into quiet thought, a small signal appeared on her console. A coded message from the Emperor himself. We are coming. Her eyes widened. She knew what that meant. The Selentari fleet was on its way to bring her home, by force if needed. Dark clouds hung above the Pacific as the Selentari fleet appeared in Earth's orbit. Dozens of massive ships surrounded the blue planet like silver shadows. Their lights blinked in cold formation, silent but powerful. Every satellite around Earth recorded their arrival, and within minutes, the entire world knew that the alien empire had come. Inside the observation deck, Princess Linari watched the holographic display as new signatures appeared, Selentari war vessels with royal crests. Her heart tightened. They came faster than I expected, she whispered. Ethan stood beside her, his face pale. What are they planning to do? They will demand my surrender, she said softly. If I refuse, they might use force to bring me back. My father does not forgive disobedience. Ethan took a deep breath. You stood up for us. We won't let them hurt you. Linari looked at him kindly. You cannot fight them, Ethan. Their power is far beyond human weapons. He shook his head. Maybe not with weapons, but we have our courage. You taught us that. She didn't answer. Her eyes lingered on the earth below, the oceans, the cities, the lives she had touched. She could not let harm come to them because of her. Moments later, a bright beam of light filled the chamber. A hologram of Emperor Soltherian appeared, towering and calm. His voice echoed through the ship. Princess Linari of the Selentari Empire, you are hereby ordered to return to the royal fleet immediately. Do not involve yourself further with this planet. She straightened her back, her voice clear. Father, I cannot obey. Humanity does not deserve punishment. They have shown nothing but bravery and kindness. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You risk the safety of our race for an inferior species. You act from emotion, not reason. Perhaps, she replied. But emotion is what makes life worth living. The hologram flickered with static. You have 20 standard minutes to comply. If not, the fleet will act. When the image faded, silence returned. Thalen turned to her nervously. Your Highness, we cannot win against them. What do we do? Linari took a slow breath. We hold our ground. We will not fight, but we will not bow. Ethan stepped closer. If they attack, Earth will defend you. We'll stand with you. Her eyes softened. You are brave, Ethan. Braver than you know. News of the approaching alien fleet spread quickly across Earth. Governments prepared defense systems, and people filled the streets holding signs that read, Don't take her. For the first time in history, all nations united, not against an invader, but to protect one alien princess who had risked her life for them. From the ship's window, Linari saw thousands of lights across the continent spelling her name. It was not fear she saw, it was hope. The Kelantari flagship sent another transmission. This is your final warning. Surrender the princess or we will neutralize this orbit. Ethan turned to her, determination burning in his eyes. Let me speak to them. You? Thalen asked. They won't listen to a human. Maybe, Ethan said, but they should hear what humanity really is. Linari hesitated, then nodded. Very well. Ethan stepped before the communication console. His voice was steady but full of emotion. This is Dr. Ethan Ward, human representative. Your princess has done nothing wrong. She saved our people when we were dying. She taught us courage and we showed her compassion. If that is a crime, then we all share it. For a few seconds, no answer came. Then the Emperor's cold voice replied, You are bold, human, but you do not understand Selentari law. Maybe not, Ethan said, but I understand what it means to be alive. She came to study us, but we learned from her too. You say you have no need for emotion. Then you've forgotten what your hearts are for. The transmission cut off abruptly. The fleet began to shift positions, preparing to engage. Warning alarms filled the ship. Linari closed her eyes and whispered, No more fear. She stepped forward and activated her broadcast channel, connecting to every Selentari ship in orbit. Her image appeared before thousands of her people. Her voice was calm, filled with strength. My name is Princess Linari. I speak not as a rebel, but as a daughter of Kelantari. Look at this world below. These humans are not enemies. They are a reflection of what we once were. They feel pain but still dream. They fall but rise again. I have seen their hearts, and I tell you, there is more wisdom in their love than in all our logic. The soldiers aboard the Selentari fleet listened in silence. Some lowered their weapons. Others hesitated. Her words carried truth they could not ignore. The Emperor's voice cut through the silence again. Enough, Linari. You disgrace your bloodline. She looked up, tears shining in her eyes. No, father. I honor it, because you once told me a leader's duty is to protect life. That is what I am doing. The Emperor did not respond for a long moment. Then quietly he said, Return home, daughter. Linari's heart sank. And if I refuse? The hologram faded without answer. Outside, the fleet moved again. But instead of firing, their ships turned slowly and began to ascend away from orbit. One by one, the lights disappeared into the stars. The bridge erupted in gasps. Thalen stared at the readings. They're leaving. Ethan smiled in disbelief. You did it. He listened. Linari lowered her head, emotion flooding her chest. No, she said softly. He understood. Outside Earth glowed quietly below. Humanity had faced the universe and won not by weapons but by compassion and courage. The princess stood watching the dawn break over the planet and whispered, Perhaps this is what it means to be human. Ethan looked at her with a small smile. Welcome to the club. For the first time in her life, Linari laughed, a soft, pure sound that filled the deck like light. For many hours after the Selentari fleet disappeared into the stars, silence filled the orbit. The humans below watched the skies with disbelief and joy. Across cities and villages, people cheered, hugged, and cried. They had stood together against a galactic empire, and somehow, through courage and words, they had won. On the Selentari observation ship, Princess Linari sat quietly near the window, staring at the blue world that had changed her forever. Her reflection shimmered against the glass, her silver hair faintly glowing in the soft ship light. She still could not believe what had happened. Ethan entered the chamber holding 2 cups of steaming tea. You've been here all night, he said gently. You should rest. Linari smiled faintly. Rest feels impossible. My thoughts are louder than any storm. He handed her the cup. Then drink this. It's human tea. Calms the mind. She took a sip and blinked in surprise. It's warm. The taste is simple, but it feels comforting. That's why we like it, he said with a grin. We make it when we're sad or happy or when we just need to think. She nodded slowly. Humans find comfort in small things. That is beautiful. Ethan sat beside her, watching the planets glow. You know, they're already calling this day the miracle of the princess. You've become a symbol of peace. Her eyes lowered. Peace built on defiance. My father will not forget what I did. He looked at her with calm sincerity. Maybe, but he also saw something new. You showed him that compassion isn't weakness. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence like a heartbeat. Later that day, the Kelantari Council sent a message, short and formal. The princess will not face exile. She is to remain in orbit for observation. The council will review her proposal for limited contact with humans. Linari read the message aloud. It is not forgiveness, she said softly, but it is not punishment either. Perhaps it is a beginning. Ethan smiled. That's progress. That's how humans change the universe, one small step at a time. Over the next few days, human shuttles arrived, carrying scientists, diplomats, and translators. Together with Linari's team, they began building a joint research base near the Pacific coast. It was small but full of hope, a symbol of two worlds learning side by side. Linari often walked through the new base observing the way humans worked. They laughed, argued, and solved problems with passion. She admired their ability to turn mistakes into lessons. One afternoon, a young human scientist showed her a flower from Earth, a small blue bloom that grew even in poor soil. "It's called a forget-me-not," the scientist said. "It survives storms, droughts, even cold winters. It reminds us to keep hope alive." Linari held the flower gently. "It is fragile," she said, "yet it endures. Much like your people." When she placed the flower near her console later, it became a small symbol of peace for her too. Meanwhile, the Selentari people began to debate across their communication networks. Many had seen her broadcast. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a visionary. For the first time in generations, the Kelantari were talking about emotion again, about compassion, empathy, and the meaning of life. Thalen came to her one evening with quiet news. "Your words are spreading through the empire, Princess. Even the lower colonies are sharing them. You've awakened something." She smiled softly. "Then perhaps my disobedience was worth it." Ethan joined them, holding a tablet filled with messages from Earth. "Look at this," he said. "People from every country are writing letters of thanks. Some say your speech made them believe in unity again. Others say you reminded them what hope feels like." Linari read a few of them silently, her eyes shimmering. "Humans express gratitude with such emotion. Every word feels alive. That's our strength," Ethan said. "We feel deeply even when it hurts." That night, Linari stood alone on the balcony of the research base. The ocean wind touched her face, carrying the scent of salt and life. The stars above shimmered like silent watchers. She closed her eyes and listened, not with her ears, but with her heart. For the first time, she felt a sense of belonging. Not to a race or an empire, but to existence itself. She whispered softly, "Maybe this is what my people lost, the feeling of being part of something bigger than logic." When she opened her eyes again, she saw Ethan walking toward her. "You're thinking again," he said with a gentle smile. "I am always thinking now," she replied softly. "Your world makes my heart busy," he laughed lightly. "Welcome to being human." She turned her gaze to the horizon. The first light of dawn touched the sea, painting it gold. "Ethan," she said quietly, "when I first came here, I wanted to study your people, but now I think I was meant to learn from them." He nodded. "And we were meant to meet you." They stood side by side as the sun rose higher. The golden light reflected in her eyes, soft and warm. It was no longer just a mission. It was a bond between two worlds. Linari lifted her pendant, which now glowed faintly. "This light used to measure emotion," she said. "Now it never fades. Perhaps it learned from me." Ethan smiled. "Or maybe you learned from it." She looked at him with quiet joy. Maybe both. Below them, the waves crashed gently against the shore. Above them, the stars seemed to hum with new harmony. For the first time in centuries, the Selentari and humans shared not just knowledge, but heart. And as the morning wind brushed past them, Linari whispered, "Hope has found its way home." Weeks passed, and peace settled between Earth and the Selentari. The joint base by the Pacific grew larger every day. Selentari engineers and human builders worked together, learning from one another. Children from nearby towns often came to see the shining alien structures rising near the water. What had once been fear had now become wonder. Princess Linari watched the progress with quiet pride. Every wall and every light felt like a small victory. But deep inside, she knew the greatest challenge was still ahead, facing her father again. One evening, as she stood by the ocean, the sky shimmered with a familiar silver light. A Royal Selentari ship appeared in orbit, larger and brighter than any before. Her heart tightened. She knew who it was. Thalen approached quickly. "Your Highness, it's the Emperor's vessel." "He is here." For a moment, Linari said nothing. The wind carried the sound of waves crashing against the rocks. Then she took a steady breath. "Prepare a landing platform. We will receive him with respect." Within the hour, a beam of light descended from the sky, forming a gentle bridge between the ship and the earth. From the glow stepped Emperor Soltharian, surrounded by royal guards. His tall figure glowed with faint silver light, his eyes calm but unreadable. Humans gathered nearby, keeping a respectful distance. Ethan stood close beside Lenari, silent but ready. When the Emperor reached her, he looked at the planet's horizon first, the golden sun setting over the sea, before turning to his daughter. "So this is the world that changed you," he said quietly. "Yes, father," Lenari replied softly. "This is Earth," he studied her face. "You look different." "I feel different," she said. "I have learned much here." The Emperor's gaze shifted toward Ethan, who stood still, meeting his eyes with quiet respect. "And this human, he guided you through this journey?" Ethan bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I was only a translator. She did everything else." The Emperor gave a small nod. "You are honest. That is rare." They walked together along the shore. The Emperor's eyes moved across the waves, the distant towns, the people working together. "Your reports reach the entire council. Half the Empire praises your courage. The other half questions your loyalty." Lenari lowered her head slightly. "I know I broke the rule of observation, but I did it because I saw truth here." He stopped walking and turned toward her. "Truth?"
"Yes," she said, her voice steady.
"Humans are not weak. They are full of heart. They fight for life even when they have little. They forgive, they hope, and they love without limits. You call that chaos, but I call it strength." The Emperor was silent for a long time. The sound of waves filled the space between them. Then softly he asked, "And what has this strength given you, my daughter?" She looked at him with gentle eyes. "It gave me purpose. It reminded me what it means to care. Our people live long, but we have forgotten how to live deeply. The humans taught me that." For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Not anger, not pride, but thought. He turned toward the sea again. "When I was young, our kind still felt emotion," he said slowly. "But we lost it, believing logic would keep us safe." He looked at her again. "Perhaps we lost too much." Lenari's eyes softened. "You can find it again. This world can remind you too." At that moment, a group of children ran near the edge of the platform, laughing as they played. One little girl stopped and looked up at the Emperor with wide eyes. She held a small flower in her hand, a forget-me-not. Without fear, she offered it to him. The Emperor looked down, surprised. Slowly, he bent and took the flower from her tiny fingers. The petals shimmered in the sunset light. "This is fragile," he said softly. "But it doesn't break." The girl answered with a smile before running back to her friends. He stared at the flower for a long time. Then he turned to Lenari. "Perhaps you are right. Maybe strength is not only in control." Lenari's heart lifted. "Then you will let this world live in peace?" The Emperor nodded slowly. "There will be no war. Instead, there will be study and cooperation. Humanity will have a place among the stars, under your guidance." Ethan stepped forward, hope shining in his eyes. "Then the Selentari and humans will walk together." The Emperor looked at him, then at his daughter. "If they walk as you two do and with respect, perhaps there is hope for both our kinds." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Emperor raised his hand toward the sky. A soft beam of light glowed across the ocean, forming a new symbol, a star joined with a blue sphere. The sign of unity between Selentari and humankind. Lenari watched it with emotion rising in her chest. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Her father nodded. "Let it stand as a promise, that no matter how different our hearts may be, life will always find a way to connect them." Later, as night fell, the stars appeared one by one, shining brighter than ever. The Emperor's ship ascended slowly, leaving trails of silver light in the sky. Lenari stood beside Ethan, watching it disappear into the heavens. "Do you think they will truly change?" she asked. Ethan smiled gently. "Change always begins with one brave heart. You've already started it." She looked at him, her eyes full of warmth. "Then the universe is not as cold as I thought." He nodded. "Not when you're in it." They stood together, the ocean wind brushing past them. Above, the stars sparkled like new beginnings. The princess who once came to study humanity now belonged to both worlds. A bridge between logic and feeling, reason and heart. And as the first light of dawn touched the sea once again, Princess Lenari whispered softly, "For all our differences, we share one truth, to live, to care, and to hope. That is what it means to be alive."